Deadpool and Wolverine was good. Is it the savior of the MCU? No. Is it a good end to the Deadpool trilogy of films? Definitely not. Well, how can I call it a good movie? Well, we're gonna talk about that, and obviously there's gonna be spoilers because it's hard to talk about a film like this and not include them, so you've been warned. And with that said, let's get started. So, what in the world is Deadpool and Wolverine about? Well, after having an encounter with the TVA, Wade Wilson discovers that his timeline is dying. You see, every timeline has this thing called an anchor being. If something happens to that anchor being, then the timeline would also cease to exist. And since Wade comes from the Fox timeline, aka the timeline where Wolverine dies, his universe is starting to wipe itself out of existence. In order to stop that from happening, Wade travels the multiverse to find a variant of Logan to save his timeline. And of course, when these two characters meet up, there's a bunch of zany and crazy antics and a bunch of jokes along the way. Most of them are pretty hit or miss, but that just comes with the territory of these Deadpool movies. If you've been on the internet, at all this past week, then you're bound to see so many mixed reactions about this movie. On one side of the coin, you have people that are just completely infatuated with the movie. They enjoyed all the cameos, all the fan service, and especially seeing Hugh Jackman play Wolverine again and actually wear a costume this time. On the other side, you have people who are saying that this movie is a prime example of the issues with modern-day superhero media, how everything is so self-referential and how more the priority is spent on cameos and pauses for claps than actually trying to tell a compelling story. And I can understand the argument for both sides. I'm personally somewhere in the middle. I'm not gonna sit here and pretend that Deadpool and Wolverine is a well-written movie because it's not. There are a bunch of narrative problems that I feel like take away from it, but it's not enough to the point where it kills my enjoyment. You know, I really have a strong appreciation for films like these because it knows exactly what it is. It's not some deep, character-driven narrative. It's a Cameo Fest. It's a bunch of fan service put together for the enjoyment of the viewers, and it does a good job at that. You know, there have been many times in the movie where I was genuinely surprised about what I saw, in terms of, what was happening on screen. You know, in a way, it's a celebration of the pre-MCU era superhero movies, and I really like that. We have cameos from Blade, played by Wesley Snipes. I'm so glad he took care of his taxes. We have Jennifer Garner's Elektra. We have Channing Tatum's Gambit, which is a really deep cut if you've been following the superhero media stuff for a while. We have X-23, once again played by Daphne Keane from Logan. And a really surprising one is Chris Evans, who isn't playing Captain America, but Johnny Blaze. No, not Johnny Blaze. Fuck, that's the wrong Fire guy. Who plays Johnny Storm. But yeah, it's cool to see all these guys come back and possibly make their last appearances as these characters. But that also shows the big problem with these cameos. These guys aren't really characters that are important to the story. They're like props. Their main purpose is to be in action scenes and for the audience to go, I know that person! It's a lot like when you were a kid and you were playing with your action figures and you would have a matchup like Spider-Man versus Accelerate from Ben 10, two characters that have nothing to do with each other, that don't even know each other, and still have that matchup because it'll be fun. Well, that's the same principle this movie follows. It's a lot more spectacle over substance, and I could completely understand why that might rub a lot of people the wrong way. What I can't get behind, though, is just how overly dramatic people are being about this. So ever since Hugh Jackman announced that he was going to come back and play Wolverine, since day one, pretty much people have been like, oh, so him coming back is just going to totally disgrace the ending of Logan, and Logan was such a heartfelt ending to the Wolverine character. Okay, for the people that are like that, I have two things to say. Well, first, welcome to comics. That happens all the time in comic books. Number two, it only takes away from the impact of Logan as much as you let it. Logan, as a story, is still the definitive ending for that character. The Wolverine in this film is a variant. He's not the same guy we've been following for 20 years. Hugh Jackman wasn't forced to come back, he wanted to do this. As an actor, he had the opportunity to tell his darker Wolverine story, and now he has a chance to do something a bit more lighter. And I respect that, you know? You want to do more shit, different kind of shit. Clearly both him and Ryan had a lot of fun doing this again, and it comes across on screen.
They took your story, something that meant so much to people like me, and turned it into something trivial.
Whatever. It was just a movie.
On its own merits, I think this movie is a good time, but as a sequel to Deadpool 2, and 1 for that matter, this movie is very disjointed. For example, in the ending of Deadpool 2, he goes back in time and changes a bunch of things, and it's barely even mentioned here once. Then, most of the important characters who were prominent in Deadpool 2 and the first movie, they just don't have anything to do here. Apparently, Vanessa, his love interest from the first 2 films, breaks up with him and gets a new boyfriend, and that really sucks because their romance was the highlight of the previous films. She was a really good emotional weight that this character needed, and without her, Deadpool is mostly just all jokes for the majority of the film. There's an attempt of a character arc with Wade where he has this strong need of being accepted. He wants to feel like he has a purpose and to do something that matters. I feel like a lot more time should have been spent on that and trying to flesh that part of himself out a bit more versus the 100th joke about how he wants to fuck Hugh Jackman. But, you know, that's just my opinion. Once again, Hugh Jackman gives a really great performance as Wolverine, as he always does. And for the most part, I like his new costume. Like, I would have some changes here and there, especially, like, around the arms. But it works just enough for this movie. Oh yeah, this movie has villains. So we technically have 2 main antagonists in this movie, Paradox and Cassandra Nova. Paradox is a TVA agent who's in charge of preserving and deleting timelines, and his whole thing is that since Wolverine is dead in the Fox timeline, then the entire timeline itself shouldn't exist because, well, if it's dying anyways, then he might as well speed it up. It's not the strongest motivation, nor is he an intimidating villain at all, but it's something, I guess. And Cassandra Nova is a lot more interesting. She is the sister of Professor X. She's from a place called the Void, which is like this Mad Max kind of wasteland where all the unwanted people are sent to, and that's where we see most of the cameos in the movie. Her master plan is to destroy the other timeline so everything can take place within that Void universe because she feels that is the best place to be, because reasons. Yeah, look, again, the plot structure in this movie ain't the best, and with all these writers, it's kinda evident why. But yeah, that's her whole deal in a nutshell. Her final confrontation with Wade and Logan is kinda just whatever, and that is Deadpool and Wolverine. In the comment section, tell me if this movie was something you guys genuinely enjoyed, or if it's just more MCU schlock. I think the film has a bunch of flaws, but overall, it was a really fun experience, and that I would definitely go see it again. But tell me what you guys think. And with that said, I'll see you guys in the next video. Peace out. Also, I forgot to mention that it's good to see Henry Cavill in a good movie for a change.